So in the last chapter, we did auto levels, and that will fix this image to a degree. But since we've got this white tear and we also have this white corner, it's going to really throw it all off, and it's not going to work. I'll demonstrate it really quick so you don't have to experiment with it. But if we go to auto tone, you can see it really didn't fix it up, right? So I just undid that function. And now what I'm going to do is we're going to adjust these levels manually. And at the same time, I want to explain how the histogram tool works and how a histogram can be read. So we're going to go to Image Adjustments and then choose Levels. So a histogram is this graph right here. And the best way to think about a histogram is that it is sort of a bar graph that shows how many pixels in the image are this darkest shade of black. There's from 0 to 255, right? 255 levels. Of the darkest black, there are 0 pixels. Of the next darkest black, there's 0 pixels. And it looks like basically a third of the way in, from the edge of perfect black all the way to this shade of gray is the darkest we get. When you see a histogram like this, it normally indicates a bad image. And we're going to talk about some exceptions to this. There's a very easy fix. And what we're going to do is we're going to simply drive this little car here. That's how I always think about it. This is a mountain, and here's a car on each side. So I'm going to drive the black car to the edge of the mountain. And this is actually called technically a black input level slider. It indicates what level should we make the very darkest pixels. So we're going to turn those pixels that were this shade of gray, we're going to turn them totally black. We're going to do the same thing on the right hand side. We're going to get rid of all of these light shades of gray, which are probably just edges around these tears and things. And we're going to bring that over and drive the car to the front of the mountain this way. And wow, incredible difference. Let's turn off the preview. That's before and that's after. Incredible difference. You can also just kind of manually tweak these back and forth, and it's really sort of a matter of taste. So I'm not going to give you values and tell you what to put in. You can look at the screen and see what I'm using, but I'm really not looking at the numbers. I'm looking at my photo, and I'm trying to determine what do I really like in terms of the actual look that I'm getting. And so even when I drag these back and forth, I'm not looking at the histogram. I'm just dragging it, and I'm looking at the image itself to see what effect happens when I am moving them kind of slightly back and forth. And I just sort of put them where I want so that I get the effect that I really am happy with at the end. Once I'm done with that, I simply click OK, and now that commits my changes. So at this point, I have manually adjusted the black and white levels, where in the past when we used auto tone, it automatically set the levels for us. What we want to do is manually adjust them often. Now, before I close here, I do want to mention that if we pull up that histogram again, if we go to Image Adjustments and then choose Levels, look at our histogram. Now it looks pretty good. Generally, you want to see a well-distributed histogram. You want to see that there's information in all of the different levels within your image. However, there are exceptions. Look at this example. And this image is what's called a low-key image. So a low-key image is one that tends to be sort of dark and moody. And if you look at the histogram for this photo, you can see that it's really kind of heavy on the left-hand side. There aren't any very bright parts of the image. But if we were to fix it, it would change the mood of the photo. So these concepts cannot be understood completely by the math and completely by the way the histogram looks, because they have different feelings. Here's another example of a high key image, and you can see that it has a really great look. It conveys a very specific feeling, very bright and airy, and that's communicated because of our uneven histogram. So we wouldn't want to fix the histogram in this image either, because it will change the mood of the photo. So recognize that the histogram can be a really helpful tool in determining where the problems in a photo might be, but you cannot rely on it solely. You really have to look at the image, think about the way it's going to be used and what's going to be communicated with it, because sometimes you can create a mood by using a histogram that's not well balanced. And that's exactly what we do and what we intend to do with art, is to learn the rules, learn what's perfect and standard, and then learn when to break it and sort of shove the rule a little bit to the side so that we can try and communicate something a little bit deeper than normal.